Okay. Shall I start? Okay. ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्. So in the last session we saw that the two words of the Mahavakya, the Tat Padartha, that is what represents Brahman, and Tvam Padartha, that which represents the Jiva, are ultimately not different from each other. And we also saw that the superficial meanings of the Tvam Padartha and Tat Padartha, if we take the primary meaning or the superficial meaning, it shows that there is a lot of difference. But then, how to come to the implied meaning? I said in the last session that it is not the superficial meaning or not the primary meaning or the vachyartha which gives us the oneness between the two. It is the lakshartha which gives us the idea that, not the idea, the knowledge that the tat padartha and tvam padartha are one and the same, they are not different from each other. It is the lakshartha. So, vachyartha means the primary meaning of the word. Lakshartha means the implied meaning of the word. And in our daily language also, we definitely use this particular thing where the word meaning, the primary meaning of the word, the vachartha is something, and the lakshartha that we take, we understand in the common language is something different, which we see in every day, in our everyday life, we see that in our daily transactions of talking to somebody, we see that. I gave you a few examples last time. Now, our scriptures talk about how to come to the implied meaning from the primary meaning. From Vachartha, how to come to the Lakshartha. Our scriptures talk about three different ways of coming to the Lakshartha, and they are called as the Lakshanas. To come to the Lakshartha, there are three Lakshanas or three ways or three methods by which we come from actually understand that the Vachartha is not really the one, it is the Lakshartha. So the next verse is talking about this particular thing, whatever, whichever the next verse we are going to talk about, it's talking about this particular methodology of how to deduce the implied meaning from the primary meaning of the word. How to deduce Lakshartha from Vachartha. So for Mahavakya it applies. As I said, superficially the Vachartha of the Tvam Padartha and the Vachartha of the Tat Padartha show that the two cannot be equated. Then ultimately the implied meaning we have to go to. The Lakshartha we have to go to. So how to come to the Lakshartha? From the Vachartha, how to come to the Lakshartha? Vachartha means the immediate meaning. Whatever immediately that particular word gives a meaning, that is called as Vachartha. But then our mind processes it in such a way that we understand that that word is standing for something else, which we are doing all the time. Our brain is all the time. So the next verse talks about the three ways in which, the lakshanas, or the three ways in which the implied meaning is deduced, and which of these particular methods apply to the Mahavakya. That is what is going to be talked about in the next verse. So before that, I would like to give you what these three methods are and what are these three lakshanas. Lakshana means methods. What are the three lakshanas by which we understand the implied meaning or the lakshartha from the vachartha? Now, there is the first method or first lakshana called as the Jahat lakshana, Jahati lakshana or Jahat lakshana. Second one is called as Ajahat lakshana or Ajahati lakshana. Third one is called as Bhagat Tyaga lakshana. Now I will explain each of them. You will understand that we are doing it every day. Our brains, our minds are capable of doing it every day, not once, several times in a day. When we talk, we are using this particular methodology. So, Jahat Lakshana. Now, for example, there is a particular word, and that word completely goes. Jahat, that is discarded, and a new meaning, a new word comes. That is called as Jahat Lakshana or Jahati Lakshana. That means what? The primary word, the word that was taken, completely goes, and in my understanding, a new word replaces the primary word. So let me give you an example. We say there is a noisy room. Noisy room. Now, noisy and room. Noisy is the word. It cannot really apply to the room, correct? The room cannot be noisy. So when I say noisy room, how do you understand it? People in the room are noisy, correct? Therefore, the room word goes and the word people comes into your mind. This is called as Jahati Lakshana. That means one thing goes, in its place another word the mind understands. So whenever I say the room is very noisy, the meaning is the people in the room are very noisy. So the word room goes away and the word implied meaning people comes. The superficial meaning or the primary meaning of the word called the room goes away, and in your mind, the people is the implied meaning which comes. This is called as Jahati Lakshana. The word, the primary meaning, the word is completely discarded and a secondary meaning or implied meaning word comes in. Now, another thing we can say, the Blues won the match. The Blues won the match. So, now how do we understand? It is not that the blue has won the match, cricket match. When cricket is going on, we say the Blues have won the match. So, what is the meaning of that? In the place of blue, the blue goes, and whichever team is wearing the blue dress comes. So if India is wearing a blue dress, if he says blues are making it, the blues are making it, what does it mean? It means that that particular team which is wearing the blue uniform is actually winning. So the blue goes and the team which is wearing the blue uniform comes in. There is another, in the scriptures, there is another way of saying Gangayam Ghoshaha. That means, or Gangayam means in Ganga, the village is in Ganga. The village in Ganga. Now we know very well that there cannot be villages in Ganga. So the in word goes, and on the banks of Ganga, rivers in Ganga becomes, villages in Ganga. The village in Ganga becomes the village on the banks of Ganga. So the in goes totally, the river goes totally, in the river goes totally, and the banks of the river comes in. So, when the primary meaning totally goes and the secondary meaning, another word with the implied meaning or lakshartha comes, that is called as Jahat Lakshana. Now he is going to now ask in the further verses, can Jahat Lakshana be applied to the Mahavakya? Can Ajahat Lakshana be applied? So before that, we must know what is Ajahat Lakshana. Now, for example, second one, we will take Ajahati Lakshana or Ajahat Lakshana. That means the primary word is not excluded. Along with the primary word, another meaning is included. Okay, the primary is not excluded, but another thing is included in the word. Now there are certain horses running. A red horse is running, a brown horse is running, a white horse is running, a black horse is running. Supposing you say Shono Dhavati, the red is running. The red cannot run. So what happens? The red word does not go away. Red horse is running. So the red word remains, but another word comes in and joins this red. This is what is called as Ajahati Lakshana. That means the primary word does not go, but another new word comes and get joins the primary word, and the do two together give the implied meaning. Now let us say in our example, in same thing we'll see when we go to a hotel, we say one plate idli, but we know very clearly that along with one plate idli, chutney and sambar also come along with that. So when I say one plate idli, only one plate idli does not come. When you tell me you ate one plate idli, I understand it as what? You ate one plate idli with chutney and with sambar. That means what? Idli remains. Chutney and sambar come along with that. Therefore, the primary meaning does not go away. The primary word does not go away, like in Jahat Lakshana. In Jahati Lakshana, what happens? The primary word goes away, it is totally replaced by the Lakshartha word. Whereas in Ajahati Lakshana, the primary word Shonaha remains, Idli remains. But along with that, a new word comes which together give me the implied meaning of the word. Then the third one comes called Bhagatyaga Lakshana, another one. Now in Bhagatyaga Lakshana, an example is given. I have a classmate called Devadatta. In school, I had a classmate called Devadatta. Now, after some 50 years, I meet Devadatta, but I do not recognize him. Why? That Devadatta at that particular time was thin, was short, and he had a head full of hair, black hair. Now I'm seeing a person who is equally short. He has become little shorter also. He's become very fat and he has become bald. Now I don't realize or understand that this is that Devadatta. But another friend of mine who knows both of us is there along with Devadatta and tells me, do you remember him? He is our Devadatta, our friend Devadatta. Oh, this is Devadatta. Now I recognize. So, what is it that I have done? I have removed that Devadatta's physical appearance, this Devadatta's physical appearance, that day and time I have removed, this place and time also I have mentally or intellectually removed, and what remains is only the person Devadatta. School and 1960 and that Devadatta who is short and who is thin and who is having a head full of hair, all the three are almost intellectually removed. And here, this place, this time, and this appearance of Devadatta is removed. Then I understand that this Devadatta is that Devadatta only because of the change in the Upadhi. That time the Upadhi was what? Short, thin, and a head full of black hair. Now, what is the Upadhi? Short, fat, and a bald head. So, now what have I done? The upadhis I have removed intellectually. I cannot remove. That place, I remember that Devadatta of that time. That place and time and upadhi are negated by my brain. And now I am seeing this Devadatta in this place at this time with this upadhi. Intellectually, I remove. I forget that upadhi also. And then I see that that person and this person are one and the same. The upadhis were different, the time was different, the place was different, but the person is the same. This is called as Bhagatyaga Lakshana. So these are the three Lakshanas by which we come to the implied meaning of a word. Jahati Lakshana, Ajahati Lakshana, Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Jahati Lakshana means the primary word or the main word, the primary meaning completely disappears and the secondary meaning comes in that. For example, what I told you just now, whatever, the example I gave you, Gangayam Ghoshaha or noisy room. The noisy goes, people come in, Jahati Lakshana. Ajahati Lakshana, the primary word remains, but along with this, another new meaning comes. Shono Dhavati. Shono Ashvaha Dhavati. Shonaha remains, Ashva comes in. Idli remains, Chutney comes in. Then Bhagatyaga Lakshana, where that Devadatta, where I used to see him, that place, that time, and that Upadhi of that Devadatta of my school days is intellectually rejected. This place and time that I'm seeing Devadatta now, and his upadhi is present upadhi is removed, and I understand that array, that Devadatta of 1960 and this Devata of 2020 are one and the same. So what is the meaning of that? That particular portion of Devadatta which is not matching has been removed by my brain, and the person who is the real behind the upadhi is retained, and I see that that person and this person are one and the same. And whatever scriptures say is, for the Mahavakya Vichara, Tat Tvam Asi, we cannot apply the Jahati Lakshana also. Which of the words will you remove? Whether you will remove the Tat Padartha, what word will replace that? Nothing will only Tat cannot be replaced by any other word. If you remove the Tvam Padartha, what other word what else can come? Nothing else can come. So in both the Tatpada and the Tvampada, the primary meaning or Vachartha cannot be completely replaced by another word. Therefore, in Mahavakya Vichara, we cannot use the Jahati Lakshana. Can we use the Ajahati Lakshana? We cannot, because no other word can come in. There are only two words, Tat, Tvam, Asi. Asi is the verb. You are that. Okay, you and that are the two words which are in, apposition. You know the meaning of opposition. They are the words in opposition, not opposition. They're in opposition. That means they're on the same place. They're on the same, the same stage, connected by a word called are. So how can we include something else along with that? We cannot include any other word along with that. So ajahati lakshana is also not possible. Then what is possible? Bhagatyaga Lakshana is possible. The upadhi of the Tvam Padartha has to be intellectually, by Shastra study, has to be ignored. The upadhi which is superficial of the Tat Padartha has to be intellectually ignored. Why they should be ignored? Because the upadhi is mithya. The upadhi is only an experiential reality. It is not the absolute reality. Therefore, the Panchakoshas or the Shariratraya, which happen to be the Upadhi of the Tattvam Padartha, the Upadhi of the Tvam Padartha, the Panchakoshas, are unreal. The Upadhi is Mithya. Therefore, intellectually, I remove the Upadhi of the Tvam Padartha. What remains? Atma, the consciousness remains. Similarly, from the Tat Padartha, which is in opposition to Tvam Padartha, the Upadhi called as the Jagat, I remove the name and form called Jagat. I remove intellectually after having studied the Shastra. Why do I remove intellectually the meaning of that word, which is not Upadhi, which is nothing but the name and form, universe? Because it is Mithya. Jagat is Mithya. What is Satyam? Brahman is Satyam. Jagat is Mithya. So the Mithya Upadhi is intellectually discarded in the Tat Padartha. In the Tvam Padartha also, the Mithya Upadhi, body, mind, sense complex or Panchakosha are intellectually discarded. Then what do we see? Atma on one side, Brahman on one side. And without the two upadhis, the Atma and the Brahman are one and the same consciousness. That is why you are that you are, or Tat Tvam Asi. Tvam Tat Asi. In any way, this equation can be talked about. So, what Lakshana do we use here to come to the implied meaning from the primary meaning? It is Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana. This is the explanation I wanted to give before we went on to the actual verses, which are going to talk about the same thing. Then it will become easier for you to understand. So, next we will go to actually now the Mahavakya Vichara is actually equating the R, the equation has started. Now, let us see the 247th verse where these Lakshanas are talked about. I hope you have understood how to come, how to derive the implied meaning from the primary meaning, how to cull out the lakshartha from the vachartha. Three lakshanas, Jahati lakshana, where the vachartha is completely replaced by the lakshartha. Ajahati lakshana, where the vachartha includes something else and becomes the lakshartha. The vachartha does not go away, but another something new is brought about by the mind. Bhagatyaga Lakshana is what? Where the unnecessary upadhis on both the sides are intellectually negated as mithya, and what remains is the content of both the upadhis, which is the same. This is called as Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Now let us go to the 247th verse. ततस्तुतौ लक्षणया सुलक्ष्यौ तयोरखण्डैकरसस्त्वसिद्धये नालं जहत्या नाथथा अजहत्या किन्तु भयार्थात्मिकैव भाव्यम्. So he says that tatastutau lakshanaya sulakshau. Tatastu, therefore, tataha tu, therefore, we have to understand what? We have to understand the tvam padartha and the tat padartha lakshanaya sulakshav. It should be indicated by the lakshanas. By a particular lakshana vritti, it has to be indicated. What is this lakshana vritti? Tayoho akhanda eka rasatva siddhaye. Tayoho, between the two, between the Vachartha and the Lakshartha, to prove that they are one and the same, the primary meaning of the two words will never prove the oneness of the same, because the primary meaning of both the words shows something totally different. The meaning of oneness can never be shown by the primary meaning of the word at all. Then, Tayoho अखंड एक रसत्व सिद्धये, to see or to prove that the tvam padartha and tat padartha are not different from each other, what should we do? Therefore, tataha tu tau, for them, both of them, tau, both of them, lakshanaya sulakshyau. We have to bring in the lakshana vritti. We have to bring in whichever lakshana is actually describing the implied meaning. And in the third line, he says, Na alam jahatya, na tata ajahatya. So it is not possible to explain the akhanda eka rasatvam, or the oneness between the tvam padartha and the tat padartha, either by jahati lakshana or by ajahati lakshana. That is what he is saying here. Jahati lakshana will not explain. If you discard the main word, what word are you going to replace it with? Is there any other word which can replace, tvam pada? It cannot replace. Atma, you don't even know. It is actually Atma, but you don't know that it is Atma. We are still studying the two. The Atma, the Tvam Padartha, which is Atma, and the Tat Padartha, which is Brahman, are one and the same. That is what we are studying. So we cannot, the tvam padartha cannot be totally discarded and bring a new word. The tat padartha cannot be discarded and bring in a new word. Therefore he says, na alam jahatya. That means jahati lakshana, or completely replacing the primary word by the implied meaning. That is not possible. Na tatha ajahatya. By ajahati lakshana also it cannot be implied meaning cannot be reduced, because no other word can be brought in along with that. These are specific words. These are the words which cannot be actually replaced by any other word, or we cannot add any other word in that. So naham jahatya, na tata ajahatya, किंतु उभयार्थ उभयार्थात्मिकैव भाव्यम. So both the words have to be kept, where a part of the word has to be removed. From tvam padartha, one part which is unnecessary, one part which is not matching with the other has to be removed. Similarly, from the tat padartha also, that particular part which is not matching with this has to be removed. Now, the Tvam Padartha has got two parts. What are the two parts? The Upadhi is one part and the consciousness is the second part. Because I've already said, when I say I, there are two things. What are the two things? One is the Upadhi, the body mind sense complex. And what is the other I, the real I? The real I is that I which is the Sakshi Chaitanya Atma of this particular body mind sense complex. So when I say I, there are two things. I am a mixture of Anatma and Atma. So out of these two things, one has to be removed. Similarly, when you talk about Tat Padartha, about Brahman, about Ishvara, there are two things. One is the Anatma name and form called as the Jagat, and also the content or the adhishtanam of that jagat, which is called as the Brahman or Atma. Therefore, the unnecessary part of it has to be removed. There are two parts in Tvam Padartha, there are two parts in Tat Padartha. So, that particular part which is of not significant, non significance, has to be removed. That which is significant on both the sides will remain. I'm explaining it again and again because this is a new thing which we are talking about. In Bhagavad Gita also, we did not talk about the Jahati, Ajahati, and Bhagatyaga. And since this is something new, that is why I want to spend a lot of time on this. And if you really understand this, you will see that in our daily transactions, many times in a day, while talking to the others, we are using all the three lakshanas. We are using all the three lakshanas. Definitely, we are using all the three lakshanas. See, I'll give you another example. When I say I bought a mango, okay, I bought a mango. I buy a mango along with its seed. Correct? When I say I bought a mango, I don't buy simply a mango. I buy the whole mango. It is along with the seed. So the seed comes along with that. So when I say I bought a mango, it is ajahati lakshana. The seed also comes along with it. So I understand that I have bought a mango and along with the mango, the seed also has come. Now when I tell somebody I ate a mango, in that what happens, in that I ate a mango, that seed goes away totally. Correct? Only the mango remains. We understand very well that the seed goes, that unnecessary part of it which is not necessary goes away, the necessary part only remains. This is bhagatyaga lakshana. This is Bhagatya. I talked about idli chutney, where something is included in that. There are some cows that are grazing. I want to point out, one particular cow. I say the brown one, the brown is eating grass. What is the meaning of brown is eating the grass? Brown is not eating the grass. It is the brown cow which is eating the grass. So with the brown, the cow comes. Now when I say I bought a mango, it is ajahati lakshana. The seed also is included in this. And when I say I ate a mango. How do you understand it? Do I eat a mango along with the seed? No. You understand that this person has eaten a mango pulp only without swallowing the seed also. Therefore, Bhagatyaga Lakshana automatically you have done. That the seed of the mango is thrown away, only the pulp of the mango. When I say I ate a mango, I also understand that I have eaten only the pulp and not the seed. You also understand that I have eaten only the pulp and the seed. So the unnecessary part, the seed, intellectually has been discarded. Only the mango has been retained. Similarly, in Bhagatyaga Lakshana, in tat padartha, tvam padartha, the unnecessary upadhi, which is not useful to us, is removed. So, from the point of view of tat padartha, the body mind sense complex or the panchakoshas become the unnecessary, not necessary, useless anatma at that time to understand Mahavakya. So the Anatma body mind sense complex, intellectually I discard and retain only the Atma. On the side of the Tat Padartha also, the Anatma, which is nothing but the name and form Jagat, which is the Upadhi for Ishvara, that being Mithya, that also I discard intellectually, and what remains is only Brahman. Therefore, Bhagatyaga Lakshana, Ubhayarthaha, a part of what is there in both of them is retained, a part of what is not necessary is not retained. Now you may ask me a question: why should you discard the upadhi from both the sides? Why don't you discard the Atma from this side and Brahman from that side and retain the upadhi? Is it possible to do that? Because ultimately, Atma is the very content, Atma is the very Adhishtanam because of which the Anatma is existing. Correct? The world is the Upadhi, and because of Brahman only, the Upadhi, the name and form, world is existing. Without Atma, there is no body, mind, sense complex. Without Brahman, there is no Jagat at all. So we should know which part to give up and which part not to give up. In eating the mango, I don't throw away the mango and eat the seed. Correct? So whatever is mithya there, whatever is not necessary there, I throw away the seed and then only eat the mango. Similarly, whatever is not necessary, that part has to be discarded intellectually from Tvam Padartha and Tat Padar also. What is the unnecessary part? What is that part which is not required by us? The Mithya Anatma on both sides is not required by us. Therefore, both of them on the both sides, the Mithya Anatma, body mind sense complex from the point of view of Tvam Padartha, and the entire Jagat, the name and form Jagat, have to be intellectually discarded. They cannot be actually like a mango seed, it cannot be discarded because without an atma there is no anatma. I cannot remove the body and discard it to understand that I am atma. Intellectually I have to understand it. So he says ubhayarthaha, I have to take both the words and discard that part which is making me difficult to understand the oneness, and take only that part which is necessary to make me understand that it is one and the same. Like seeing that the bangle is same as gold, bangle is same as necklace, sorry, bangle is same as necklace. Bangle has a different shape, different upadhi, and the necklace is a different upadhi. Then how do I say it is the same thing? That doesn't matter. Whatever is the stuff with which the bangle is made, the stuff with which the necklace is made is the same gold. So, what do I say? I discard the two upadhis. That is why whenever I go to purchase anything, I say, I want to buy some gold. I'm buying gold for my daughter's wedding. Then I buy so many things. But what do I say? When I get, I say, I don't say I'm going to buy bangles for men. I say I'm going to buy gold. I have to buy some gold. Have you got some gold and kept for your daughter's wedding? Have you started saving upon gold? Have you started making any gold for your daughter? We say that in our language only. We say that भांगार घेतल्या भांगार घेवच्या वता. What is bhangar? It is nothing but gold. But then we are buying it in the form of various other, upadhis. Therefore, upadhi has to be rejected. And that stuff with which, because of which the upadhis, that has to be retained. That is what is called as bhagatyaga lakshana. And that is going to be explained in the next verse, 249th verse, that is going to be explained again. He says, सदेव दत्तोऽयमिति इह चैकता विरुद्धधर्मशमा विरुद्धधर्माशमपास्य कथ्यते यथा तथा तत्त्वमसीति वाक्ये विरुद्धधर्मानुभयत्र हित्वा. Something went wrong with the meter. सदेव दत्तोऽयमितिह चैकता विरुद्धधर्माशमपास्य कथ्यते यथा तथा तत्त्वमसीति वाक्ये विरुद्धधर्मानुभयत्र उहित्वा. So what is he saying? Same thing as I explained for Bhagatyaga Lakshana, Devadatta's example. Same thing he is explaining here. Sa Devadattaha ayam iti iha cha ekata. That Devadatta, whom I knew 60 years back, is the same Devadatta iti iha cha ekata. I see the oneness. How do I see the oneness? I discard the upadhis of both the Devadattas and I am able to see both the Devadattas. That Devadatta and this Devadatta are not two different people. They are one and the same Devadatta. So Saha Devadatta, Ayam Devadatta iti iha chaikata. That Devadatta is same as this Devadatta. Iti, I see the Ekata. Ekata oneness. How? By intellectually ignoring the upadhi of that time and the upadhi of this time. And what does he say for that? Viruddha dharma shamapasya kathyate. The viruddha dharmas, the upadhis which looked different. Oh, you look so different. That also I say, oh, Devadatta, you are that, my benchmate, Devadatta. You look so different. You were so thin at that time. Now you have become so fat. You had such good hair. Yeah, at that time you have lost all that hair. So, what have I done? I may express it also to that person. So, what have I done? I have discarded that upadhi and this upadhi which are viruddha to each other. So, he says, viruddha dharma shama pasya kathyate. Viruddha dharma are removed. Viruddha dharmas are removed. Viruddha dharma shama pasya kathyate. So by removing intellectually, by discarding the dharmas or the upadhis or the features of that Devadatta and this Devadatta, kathyate, the oneness is talked about. Yatha tatha tattvamasiti vakye. In the same way, just like in Devadatta, I discarded that particular Upadhi dharmas which were viruddha to each other, but I saw the same Devadatta now. Similarly, Tatha Tattvamasi iti vakye. In the Tattvamasi iti vakya, viruddha dharman ubhayatra hitva. Ubhayatra, in both the places, in both the words, the viruddha dharmas, the small, puny, limited anatma, body, mind, sense complex on the Tvam Padartha side, and the big, the entire world of name and form Supadhi on the Tat Padartha side. These two Viruddha Upadhis, which look totally contradictory to each other, they have to be Hitva, discarded. So Viruddha Dharma viruddha dharman ubhayatra hitva. Ubhayatra hitva, on both the sides, viruddha dharman, those which are looking viruddha, have to be removed. Just like in Devadatta, I removed the opposing I removed the two contradicting upadhis which did not make me realize he's that. I would not have realized only if that other person had told me. Maybe we are meeting so many people like that in our lives whom we have known earlier, but because that person has changed so much, I do not recognize him. That person goes unrecognized. Maybe so many people see me, but they don't recognize me as that same person with whom they have studied 40 years ago or 50 years ago, unless somebody tells me. Similarly, this Atma is Brahman, it I will not recognize at all unless the Guru and Shastra come and tell me, look, this Atma that you are is the same as that Brahman. Though your Upadhi is different and that Upadhi is different, there is only Ekata. You are not different from that. Like that Devadatta is not different from this Devadatta. This Upadhi, behind this Upadhi, whatever Atma is there, this Atma is not different from that Brahman. Tvam is not different from Tat, and Tvam is the same as Tat. It has to be explained. Who has to explain it? The Shastra and the Guru have to explain it. So he says that here Bhagatyaga Lakshana has to be employed in it. So in the next verse, he says in the 249th verse, he comes to the final explanation of this and gives the tatparya of what Bhagatyaga Lakshana is. He said, Jahati Lakshana cannot be applied, Ajahati Lakshana cannot be applied, Bhagatyaga Lakshana can be applied, in which the Viruddha Dharmas, the contradictory features on both the sides, have to be discarded intellectually by taking help from the Shastra and Guru. Then he says, Salakshya chinmatrataya sadatmanoho अखंड भाव परिचीयते बुधैः एवं महावाक्य शतेन कथ्यते ब्रह्मात्मनोरैक्यमखंड भावः. So what does Bhagwan Shankaracharya say here? Samlakshya chinmatrataya sad atmanoho. So properly understanding by this lakshana vritti, okay, chinmatrataya, in the form of this consciousness alone, by applying this particular Bhagatyaga Lakshana, I see myself as the consciousness alone, and at the same time, I see that Brahman as Sat or existence alone. Therefore, some Lakshya, keeping in view means what? Understanding that I am nothing but that consciousness, and that Sat is nothing but that Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam Brahma. This consciousness is nothing but that Sat, Chit, Ananda, Atma, negating the upadhis on both the sides. Akhanda bhavaha parichiyate budhaihi. Akhanda bhavaha, non-divisibleness, non-division, abheda between Atma and Brahman is recognized by Budhaihi, by the Vivekis, by the Jnanis, by they have done the Bhagatyaga Lakshana. When you have done the Bhagatyaga Lakshana, as explained in the Shruti, that is the time we understand that the Atma, is not different from that Brahman. So Akhanda Bhavaha, the non-divisibility of Atma and Brahman, the non-separateness of Atma and Brahman, Parichiyate, it is understood by whom? Budhaihi. All the Shrutis want us to become Buddhas. Buddhas means what? Wise people. By doing the Bhagatyaga Lakshana. This is how we see the oneness between Atma and Brahman. Just like we work out an equation, supposing an equation 9, 5 plus 3 is 9 minus 1, I said yesterday. If that equation has to be worked out, certain steps are worked out, and the end we see that 8 equals 8. Similarly, Tattvamasi, you are that. R means equal. You equals that. In this equation also, the Tvam Padartha has to be worked out, which ultimately comes to nothing but Chinmatroham. Then the Tat Padartha on the right hand side has to be derived and worked out. And what kind of a conclusion I come to? Sanmatroyam Brahma. that is Sanmatrameva Brahma iti Akhanda Bhava Parichiyate Budaihi. Yevam, in this way, Mahavakya Shatena Kathyate. Like this, there are thousands of Mahavakyas, hundreds of Mahavakyas in the Upanishad. Four Mahavakyas are taken as sample Mahavakyas, but there are hundreds of Mahavakyas in the Upanishads. There are hundreds of Mahavakyas talked about in Vedanta. But to tell, to just teach four important Mahavakyas are taken from four Vedas. From Chandogya Upanishad of Samaveda, what kind of Mahavakya is taken? Tat Tvam Asi. Tat Tvam Asi is the Mahavakya taken from Samaveda. Ayam Atma Brahma. Ayam Atma Brahma is from Mandukya Upanishad, which is taken from Atharvana Veda. Okay, then Prajnanam Brahma. That is the Mahavakya which is taken from Rigveda. Then Yajurveda, Aham Brahmasmi from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So these four, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Ayam Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma. These are taken as four sample Mahavakyas out of the hundreds of Mahavakyas that the Shruti is talking to us about. So here he says, Yevam Mahavakya Shatena Kathyate. Mahavakya Shatena, by hundreds of Mahavakyas, the Shruti is trying to tell us the oneness or the Akhanda Ekarasatvam, Akhandatvam, the non-separateness between Atma and Brahman. Brahmatmanoho Aikyam Akhanda Bhavam, the last line. Brahma Atmayoho, Tat Padartha Tvam Padarthayoho. Tatpada and Tvampadayoho Akhanda Ekabhavam Shrutihi Katyate Shatavakyena Shatena Mahavakya Shatena Shrutihi Katyate. Shrutihi means the Upanishads talk about Mahavakya in hundreds. Hundreds of Mahavakyas are given by Shrutis all the time, trying to tell us that you, the Tvam Padartha, is not different from Tat Padartha. This is the purpose of teaching of the Shruti. This is the Mahavakya. And Mahavakya teaching to see that I am not different from that Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. This is the purpose, the primary purpose of the Shruti. Therefore, he says, in hundreds, the Upanishads and the Shruti talks about these things. So we have to know the four standard sample Mahavakyas. It does not mean there are only four Mahavakyas. There are hundreds of Mahavakyas. In every Upanishad, there are 20, 30 Mahavakyas. So you can imagine how many Upanishads are there, how many Mahavakyas are there. Now, next, we will take up the 251st verse. Here he says, now he talks about how that everything is that same Brahman. It's not only I am that Brahman, everything is Brahman. That is what is going to be talked about in the next verse. Britkaryam sakalam ghatadi satatam mrinmatramevabhitaha तद्वत् सज्जनितं सदात्मकमिदं सन्मात्रमेवाखिलम् यस्मान्नास्ति सतः परः किमपि तत् सत्यं स आत्मा स्वयं तस्मात् तत्त्वमसि प्रशान्तममलं ब्रह्माद्वयं यत्परम्. Again, the Mahavakya Vichara is talked about here. He says, just like all the clay vessels are the karyas of the clay, similarly, the entire Jagat is nothing but the karyam or the product of this Brahman. So ultimately, what is there in this entire Jagat is Brahman only. Mrit karyam sakalam ghatadi satatam mrin matrameva abhitaha. All the hundreds of clay articles are pervaded by or made by one clay alone. Tadvat, in the same way, sajjanitam sadatmakam idam sanmatrameva akhilam. This entire jagat of names and forms is a manifestation of Sad Brahma. It is nothing but a manifestation of Sad Brahma. Yasmat nasti sataha param kimapi. Other than this Brahman, there is nothing else. Whatever is there is this Brahman only, manifesting in different names and forms. Therefore, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, it is that. Everything that is there is only this one Brahman. So, Yasmat Nasti Sataha Param Kimapi Tat Satyam Sa Atma Swayam. That Satyam, that Brahman is you, Swayam, you are that Atma. Tat Satyam Sa Atma Swayam. That is what is said in the Tattvamasi. Tat Satyam Sa Atma Tattvamasi Shvetaketo. Chandogya Upanishad says that in Tattvamasi. That Satyam is you this Atma. Hey Shvetaketo. Shvetaketo is the Shishya. Uddhalaka, who is the teacher. The Guru says, okay, Tat Satyam, that Satyam, Sa Atma, that Atma, Tat Tvam Asi Shvetaketo. That Satyam is nothing but you, that Atma, Hey Shvetaketo. That is what here Shankaracharya is also talking about. यस्मान् नास्ति सतः परम किमपि tat satyam sa atma swayam. That Brahman, you are swayam, that Atma. Tasmat tattvamasi prashantam amalam. You are that Brahman which is prashantam and amalam. That which is absolute prashantam. That which is peace rupi. That which is shanta swarupi. Prashantam amalam, that is which is the purest one, that which is the pure, amalam, pure, and which is prashantam, means you can say it is free from any modifications also, and amalam brahmadvayam tatparam, that advayam brahma you are. So who are you? You are that sat. This entire jagat is nothing but san matram sakalam, brahma matram sakalam idam jagat. And what is that san matra brahman? Nothing but swayam saha atma. You are that Atma Swayam. You are that Brahman Swayam. And who are you? Prashantam Amalam Tat Brahma. That Brahman which is ever Shanta, peaceful. That Brahman which is ever free from modifications. That Brahman which is ever free from any kind of an impurity. That pure, unmodified Brahman, Satrupi Brahman is nothing but you, that consciousness, Atma. So Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. The word, the Mahavakya is very clearly described here. And then in the next verse, which is the 252nd verse, in the 252nd verse, he says here in the next verse, निद्राकल्पितदेशकालविषय ज्ञात्रादि सर्वं यथा मिथ्या तत्त्वदिहापि जागृति जगत् स्वाज्ञानकार्यत्वतः यस्मादेवमिदं शरीरकरण प्राणाहमाद्यप्यसत् तस्मात् तत्त्वमसि प्रशान्तममलं Brahmadvayam Yat Param. So now he is talking, saying the same Tattvamasi from another point of view, more talking from the point of view of Atma. Nidra Kalpita Desha Kala Vishaya Jnataradi Sarvam Yatha. Nidra Kalpita Desha Kala means in Swapna. In the Swapna, a Desha, Kala, and Vastu, everything is created. So, Nidra Kalpita Desha, Kala, Vishaya, Jnatradi, Sarvam, Yatha, Mithya. Just like whatever place, time, and objects that are created in the dream during sleep are mithya, tadvad, in the same way, iha api, here also, jagrati, jagrat avastha also is like swapna avastha only. Jagat Swa Ajnana Karyatvatah. It is the whole Jagat that I see in the Jagrat Avastha is also very similar to the Swapna Avastha created by Maya. Jagrat Avastha is created by Maya, various names and forms. The Swapna Avastha is created by me, by my avidya. So the Jagrat Avastha is in no way different from Swapna Avastha. The Jagrat Avastha is a bigger dream. It is a waking dream, not my sleeping dream. Yasmadeva midam sharira karana prana ahamadi api asat. Therefore, for this particular Atma, Deha, Indriya, Sharira, Karana, Karana means Indriyas, Sharira means Deha, Prana, Adi, Asat. This entire Upadhi of body, mind, sense complex is Asat. Just like in dream, everything is Asat. In the Jagrat Avastha also, I think that this body, mind, sense complex is a reality, but that is not the reality. That is Yasmadyevam idam Sharira Karana Prana Aham Ahankara Adi Api Asat Tasmat therefore Tattvamasi Prashantamamalam Brahmadvayam Yatparam. You are not this mithya body mind sense complex. You are that consciousness which is inseparable, non separate from Brahman. This upadhi is also like a dream upadhi. Just like you dream in a dream that you have a different body, mind, sense complex, a different place and form. Similarly, here also in the Jagrat Avastha also, it is a Jagrat Avastha dream only. It is the difference is it is a bigger dream, it is a longer dream, and it lasts for sometimes for years together, and same dream is being dreamt by many of us. But then, actually speaking, this upadhi, this body mind sense complex, this desha, this kala is also as mithya as body mind sense complex in the dream. Therefore, you are not this body mind sense complex, you are that prashantam amalam satrupi brahman. So you, this Atma, is nothing but that Brahman. Therefore, the Mahavakya Vichara has been very clearly explained in these 5 or 6 verses. With this, the teaching of Mahavakya is over, and now from the next verse onwards, what is Jivan Mukti? The phalam of understanding this Mahavakya will be talked about. What is the phalam? What is the result? Moksha. What is moksha? Iha eva, when I'm here only, now and here, before I die, I understand that I am nothing but this Mukta Purusha, this freedom from samsara, this moksha, which I get here and now. When I understand this Mahavakya, Mahavakya is the real knowledge. Atmajnana is nothing but Mahavakya Vichara. Brahmajnana is nothing but Mahavakya Vichara. Understanding very clearly that I, this consciousness, is Prashantam Amalam Sat Rupi Brahman. This is the ultimate teaching of Vedanta, and this understanding is what is called as Brahma Jnanam and Atma Jnanam. And when I understand this Mahavakya, it gives rise to the result called as moksha. And what is moksha? It is called as Jivan Mukti. So, what is Jivan Mukti is going to be talked about from the next verse. And then, who is a Sthita Prajna? What are the nature? What are the Lakshanas of a Sthita Prajna? How a person with Jivan Mukti is going to be talked about in the coming sessions. With this, we will stop here. Om Nandantu Sadhaka Sarve Vinashyantu Vidushakaha Avastha Shambhavi Mestu Prasannostu Gurus Sada Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkham Apnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.